You know those moments, right? 1 second you're fine, you're calm, and then, boom. An emotion just hits you so hard that your logical brain completely checks out. It just vanishes. It really is like a switch flips inside your head. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into why that happens and what's really going on up there when our thinking just stops.
So to get started, let's talk about a feeling that I'm pretty sure every single one of us has experienced. It's that powerful, gut-level feeling of being absolutely 100% certain about something.
I mean, think about it. That moment when you are so sure you know what's going on in someone else's head, you know exactly what they meant by that comment, you know their intentions, no doubt in your mind. We've all been there.
And it almost always happens in these small, everyday situations. You send a text, and it goes unanswered. You just know they're mad at you. Or your partner gives you a weird look from across the room, and you know it's about that thing you said earlier. And oh man, that super short one-line email from your boss, yeah, you just know you're in trouble. And that's really the key here. In that exact instant, it doesn't feel like a guess. It doesn't feel like a theory. It feels like a hard fact. The emotion is just so powerful that it presents itself as the undeniable truth.
So, what is actually going on? This is where we can get into the really fascinating stuff, the mechanics of why our thinking can just seem to, well, shut down.
The best way to think about it is like this. When our emotions get intense enough, and it can be anger, fear, you name it, our brain has this built-in circuit breaker. It can literally just flip a switch.
And we can actually give this a name. It's called the switch point. It's that precise moment where our brain shifts gears. We go from being thoughtful, considering different possibilities, being curious, to just reacting purely on instinct.
So this creates two completely different states of mind. When we're in thinking mode, we're flexible, we're curious, we're open to seeing things from another person's point of view. But once that switch is flipped, we're suddenly in survival mode. And in that mode, our brain isn't worried about careful consideration anymore. Nope, it's all about fight or flight.
So what does it look like when our brain goes on autopilot? This is where a really important function, sometimes called mentalizing, starts to break down. And all mentalizing is our ability to make sense of ourselves and other people by thinking about what's going on in our minds. Our feelings, our thoughts, our intentions. But when we're in survival mode, that ability just goes right out the window. Suddenly, our thinking becomes super black and white. Things are either all good or they're all bad. We completely lose any curiosity about what the other person might be thinking or feeling. And we start looking for really simple answers, blaming the situation or blaming the other person, anything to avoid the messy, complex reality.
And the craziest part? All of this is happening while we feel 100% certain that our version of the story is the only right one. There is zero room for doubt. No space at all for another perspective.
But here's the thing, and this is so important. This is not a character flaw. Your brain isn't trying to mess you up. It is trying to protect you. It's simplifying a super complex, overwhelming reality into a simple, am I safe? Calculation. It's an old, automatic survival instinct kicking into high gear.
The only problem, of course, is that this ancient survival tool isn't always so helpful in our modern world, especially in our relationships. In fact, it can create a pretty powerful and painful ripple effect.
And it almost always follows this predictable pattern. It starts small, with a simple misunderstanding. But because our thinking has shut down, our emotions just escalate fast. That, in turn, can blow up into a much deeper conflict. And then later, when our thinking brain finally comes back online, we're usually left with a heavy dose of regret.
Over time, the consequences of this cycle are pretty significant. We end up feeling unseen or misunderstood by the people we care about. We can feel emotionally unstable, just kind of bouncing from one intense feeling to the next. It leads to those same arguments, the ones that happen over and over again. And maybe worst of all, it can leave us with this terrifying feeling of losing control over our own reactions.
So if this is just a natural brain function, what are we supposed to do? Well, the answer isn't about somehow stopping it from ever happening again. It actually starts with something much, much simpler.
First, and please, let this one sink in. This happens to everyone. You are not broken. You are not flawed because your brain does this. It's a fundamental part of being a human. Every single person has a switch point.
And this brings us to what might be the biggest takeaway of all. Just because you feel something with incredible power, with intense certainty,
That doesn't make it true. Our feelings are absolutely real, but they are not always fact.
Which leads us here. The goal isn't to become some kind of perfect, emotionless robot. It's not about controlling your thoughts all the time. The goal is just to start noticing, to be able to catch yourself in that moment and just think, there it is. I think my thinking might have just stopped.
So I'll leave you with this one question to just kind of mull over. Think back on your last week. Can you pinpoint just one moment, even a really small one, where your emotions flared up and your thinking might have flipped into that automatic survival mode? Just noticing it, that's the first and most powerful step you can take.